Good afternoon. We do apologize for our tardiness today. The regular meeting of the Kansas City Public School Board of Directors, September the 26th, 2018, is now called to order. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Ms. Manser,
Here.
Ms. Wolfsey,
Here.
Ms. Lewis, Mr. Oates,
Here.
Mr. Fierro,
Here.
Mr. Evans,
Here.
Ms. Morris, Dr. Hartsfeld,
Here.
Ms. Robinson.
Here. Board Member Morris has requested an excused absence today. If there's no objection, we will approve her, excuse her absence. Seeing no objection, Board Member Morris's absence is excused. Is there any objection to approving the agenda for tonight? Seeing no objection, the agenda is approved. We have 7 individuals that are wishing to address the board. They have indicated that they would like public comment. We want to remind our guests that they have 3 minutes per speaker. We now recognize Jose Aragon with SEIU. Is Jose here? Susan Stocking with DAC to discuss DAC. Lisa Henry to discuss unprofessionalism of the nursing staff. April Middleton, concerns about transportation continuing to not pick up her child. Mike Hughes, in support of efforts for a policy on MBE-WBE goals. Mr. Hughes, welcome.
Thank you.
You have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you for this time. Ms. Robinson is kind of humble in this. She indicated that she needed some support for our MBE-WBE small business policy that the board is and the school district, Dr. Bedell, is attempting to try to put forth. And Dr. Hartsfield, because of my experience, as you know, John Fierro, that I've had my teeth wet in MBE-WBE small business initiatives for quite a while. So for those board members who don't know who I am and what I'm about, let me just say briefly. My name is Mike Hughes. I retired from the city of Kansas City, one of my last real good jobs. I worked from 2005 to 2010 as essentially, I tell everybody when the community asks me, what did you do? Because I give you a long title. I was basic administrative officer and disadvantaged business liaison. I hate to say disadvantaged business, so I always talk about small businesses. I always try to articulate that small businesses need all the help that they can to be successful. And as a disadvantaged business coordinator, I worked from the city manager's office, and I was embedded in the capital improvements management office, and I work with engineers all the time, every day, Mr. Evans. And one of my challenges was to try to make sure that all the time on all projects, Ms. Manser, that had MBE, WBE, and small business involvement. And I realized over a period of time, even though that's a short period of time of my life working for the city, I've been involved with MBE support for a while. You remember when I worked at the Minority Contractors, which is another program that basically helps provide power and support for our small businesses. And the long and short of the story, during my assistance of MBE-WBs, I had the pleasure of working with the Human Relations Department, Dr. Bedell, and I was part of what the manager had me embedded in not only Capital Improvements Management Office, where the projects that were rolling out to expediently get hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars of public infrastructure built. My role and my goal was to help make sure that on all projects, small business, women, African Americans, Hispanics had major contract opportunities, and I was a bulldog, ladies and gentlemen. And I am a bulldog today, even though I'm probably over 65. My point here today is that I came to proudly support the district's effort. Dr. Hartsfield, I believe in diversity. I believe in affirmative action. I've seen it work. I've seen a tenacious goal program make results. I've seen literally hundreds of millions of dollars flow to small business in Kansas City. And I've been at your church over the years in front of the Black Agenda Group telling them, Mr. Evans, about the impact of city dollars, public dollars in the neighborhoods. A lot of times it goes unseen because you don't see enough of us working on those projects. So we begin to think that sometimes these hundreds of millions of dollars are not flowing to us and we're not involved. Be that as it may, the school district needs to have an aggressive program that helps ensure that you manage diversity. Diversity will not be achieved automatically. It will not be achieved by just goodwill and best faith efforts. It has to be achieved by strong programs that have teeth. And those teeth are goals that you set and measurements that you use to manage those tools each month and each year in order to see the impact that our public asks for.
Thank you.
Again, it's my pleasure to come. I'd be happy to help do anything I can to help you with it. I feel awkward in this approach because it seems like I'm singing the song that is not on the agenda, and at the last minute I only get 3 minutes. But it's a lifetime of 30 years that I've grinded on it.
Thank you so much. The chair now recognizes Marcus Evans to talk about virtual schooling. Tom Love to discuss 5 pages of zeros. Welcome, Mr. Love. Your time starts now.
So my topic is 5 pages of zeros, but before I get there, I want to thank the administration for putting some reading teachers that I think is probably in the 6 schools. Is that right? The reading teachers go in there. And I was over at the urban education office at UMKC Monday, and the person there said that we're going to try to get reading interventionists in all the elementary schools. Is that true?
We have them in all tier 2 and tier 3.
2 and 3.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was just looking for a head nod.
Okay.
I don't want to break any rules, but I'd like to change that. I'd like to change that rule. But let me get to this Senate Bill 319 thing again, where we're supposed to, under state law, help these students that have not completed 4th grade reading level. Under that law, we're supposed to maintain records on the student records of anyone who hasn't completed 4th grade reading level. I put in 2 sunshine requests a couple of months apart, months ago, no response. I'd like to know how many students in 7th through 12th grade have not completed 4th grade reading level. And then I'd like to see help given to those students. I can't imagine, and people I think generally can't imagine, that a student can go all the way through high school and graduate and be at like a 2nd grade reading level. When they go to the community college, if you go to KC Literacy, I went to one of their meetings and it was kind of shocking, but they gave some examples of people who would go in and apply to go to the community college, and they would test them. They'd give them a compass test to find out where they were. It'd be at like a 2nd grade reading level. So they give them a student ID, and they hire, or they get a mentor, I guess for free, to teach them to read. Well, we should be doing that in school. If a student's not able to read, but we're supposed to maintain the record according to this law, and this law, I believe, has the purpose of taking care of the problems if we don't fix it in K through 2nd. We can have all the early childhood you want, but if you don't provide K through 2nd grade literacy labs, you're not going to get the job done. They can identify if you have dyslexia when you're 5 and a half, 90% of them. So we're failing kindergarten through 2nd. Hopefully we're going to get that fixed, but let's go all the way to 12th grade. If anyone has not completed 4th grade reading level, we don't want them to drop out of school. We want them to be successful, be able to read. And it opens up all these opportunities. We don't want them to be the, 2/3 of the inmates in prison. We don't want them in that category. They're at risk for that. Let's go ahead and help them. They'll be excited to get it once they get over the fear of it. And that fear of failing starts in 2nd grade. When a student's in the middle of 2nd grade, the most difficult thing is for the teacher, the reading specialist, to get them to believe that they can learn to read. Atlanta, Drew Academy, let's do what they do. They provide the literacy and math labs. Let's do it in all the schools, including Hale Cook, even if it's number 1. I don't know if it's number one, or Foreign Language Academy. There's students at all the schools that need help.
Thank
All right?
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Love. For the We do want to recognize that board member Natalie Lewis has joined us by Skype, and so that she is here. Thank you for joining us, Mrs. Lewis. For the presentation of this evening's revenue and expenditures report, the chair recognizes Board Treasurer Matthew Oates.
Thank you, Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is our first monthly financial statement of the fiscal year 2019. So we'll start here on our first page. Again, we'd like to start with revenue. So when we look at our local revenue, we have year to date this year we have about 1.4 million. That's compared to about 550,000 last year. And the big difference there is a $900,000, new grant funding award. And so that's really driving that increase over this year. Under our state funding, we're trending about the same at $1.4 million. But the slight difference is due to summer school ADA. We had decreased by 246. And then, so if we look at our total revenue year to date, we're at about $3.6 million versus $3 million for this year, or $3 million last year, excuse me. So if we go to our next slide, we have our expenditures. If you take a look here under instruction, we're just over $7 million year to date, compared to last year where we were about $8.5 million last year. And that's just due to planned reductions in costs for curriculum and special ed FTEs. Under plant services, we have $3.9 million year to date compared to $3.5 million last year. And that's due to our the costs associated with bringing our custodial staff in-house, and also elimination of some capital funding for our construction crews. And then finally, here at the very bottom, we'll take a look at our debt service. And so this year, we're at just under $600,000 this year, compared to nothing at this point last year. And that's just a timing issue. Our payments are normally due on September 1st, but we paid it on August 31st. So it shows up just a month earlier. So go to our pie. So on our pie here, this is where our money comes from. So our revenues. I want to take note that we are seeing, we're expecting a decrease in federal funding this year. So federal funding accounted for 14% last year. This year will only be about 13%. And also in our local, last year we were at about 78, or last year we were at 78%, and this year it will be 79% of our funding. Where the money goes. So our expenditures, things to note here, our transportation, last year accounted for about 7% of our budget. It's down to 6%. Support services, we're now spending 2% more compared to last year. Maintenance, again, as I talked about, bringing those services in-house. So it was 11% last year, 13% this year. And also seeing an increase in our direct classroom by 1%, but a slight decrease in our other instruction by 2%. So again, this is our pie graph. And so again, the red line represents our expenditures. Our blue line represents our revenues. So again, as we go throughout the year, these lines will cross. Our blue lines will go above our red, and that means that we are taking in more money than we're spending. This here is a good reminder about the importance of having a healthy fund balance, because since the school year starts our fiscal year starts in July, but we don't get our revenue until property taxes are paid in December. So January, you want to have money in your account to kind of float you through until those revenues come in. So at this time, I'll have any questions.
Board Member Manser?
So my question is about the transportation piece, because I know this has been an ongoing struggle. We've not been seemingly not getting the full amount of revenues that we have been expecting from the state of Missouri to support pupil transportation. Did I see or hear recently that there may be some additional movement to get more money in for transportation? I think there's been some recent discussion about that, and I'm wondering if you could provide any insight.
Sure, I can tell you what little I know about that at this point. You did see that recently at the state level, there is conversation about how to increase funding for school districts across Missouri. On average, school districts across Missouri receive roughly 10% to 15% of their cost of transportation for students. The remainder becomes the burden of the local taxing jurisdiction to cover the cost of. So there's conversation about that happening. It has to happen. If it happens this year, it has to happen with found revenues that hadn't been planned. If it happens next year, it would be through legislative action and be part of the budgeting conversation for 1920.
Clarify, so they would have to do a reallocation of revenues that were in another budget
Category
line
at this
that they
point,
could move.
yes.
Thank you, Mr. Oates, for your report. Are there any ad hoc committees that wish to report tonight? Right. Seeing none, the next item of business is the report of our superintendent, Dr. Bedell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for the community's consumption, one of the things that we wanted to focus on was to try to build culture and climate across the school district. And last year, we had an opportunity to get various staff members from across the system. You know, we have 2,200 employees to come together to build as a team. This year, we had an opportunity to do the same thing where we had an intramural day. These meetings that we have during the business meetings is an opportunity for us to highlight some of those things. So we have a highlight video of our staff coming together.
The KCPS Strategic Plan, Pillar D, Key Actions 10 and 12, call for planning, accountability, and celebrations along with responsive customer service. KCPS Intramural Days are designed to celebrate staff, encourage camaraderie, and build a team atmosphere amongst the employees of the Kansas City Public Schools. Dr. Bedell believes customer service starts inside the organization and wants to create an environment where employees feel appreciated and a sense of togetherness through competition. For the fall of 2018, those competitions were kickball, spades, and dominoes. On September 15th, more than 350 KCPS employees participated in the first kickball tournament at the Urban Youth Academy. Throughout the day, competition was fierce. Staff showed off their athletic ability, and everyone had a great time. It is safe to say the event accomplished its goals of stimulating greater trust towards coworkers, increasing employee happiness and satisfaction, improving company culture, and helping employees build long-lasting relationships.
No, there was no rigging. We just happen to have some pretty solid athletes on the team. But that does conclude the superintendent's report for this month.
Thank you. The next item of business is the appointment of trustee to the Kansas City Public School Retirement System. Are there any questions regarding the approval of Mr. Horace Coleman as the trustee on the Board of Trustees of the Kansas City Public School Retirement Board of Trustees? Is there any questions?
So moved.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to approve Mr. Horace Coleman as a trustee on the Board of Trustees of the Kansas City Public Schools Retirement System Board of Trustees. Is there any debate on the motion? Hearing no debate, the secretary will call the roll.
Ms. Manser,
Yes.
Ms. Wolsey,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis. Yes. Mr. Oates,
Yes.
Mr. Fierro,
Yes.
Mr. Evans,
Yes.
Ms. Morris, Dr. Hartsfeld,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson.
Yes, there is a majority in favor in the motion to approve Mr. Horace Coleman as a trustee on the Board of Trustees of the Kansas City Public Schools Retirement System of Board of Trustees is approved. We will now have a public hearing on the approval of the 2018 property tax levy. The public hearing is now open. Will the board secretary please call the roll?
Ms. Manser,
Here.
Ms. Wolsey,
Here.
Ms. Lewis. Mr. Oates,
Here.
Mr. Fierro,
Here.
Mr. Evans,
Here.
Ms. Morris, Dr. Hartsfeld,
Here.
Ms. Robinson.
Here. The chair now recognizes Dr. Bedell to present this proposal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I will have Ms. Linda Quinley, our Chief Financial Operations Officer, to present to the community and the board our 2018 property tax levy.
Thank you. We are here tonight. Oh, I'm sorry, my clicker is sort of like Siri, not catching up with me yet. We're here tonight as required by state statute and your policy DC2 to hold a hearing before the public regarding the required establishment of our 2018 property tax rates. And so this slide is simply telling you that that's why we're here and we're meeting the timelines. The last bullet I want to point out to you, the tax rates are established to produce substantially the same revenues as budgeted and collected for property that was on the tax rolls in the previous year. Also, we are required in the state of Missouri to determine if we want to have tax levy set in any of the four funds listed there. The first two make up what we would normally call our operating funds. It's what we use to pay the day-to-day expenditures of the school district, including salaries and benefits for our employees. The third, debt service, is not a levy that KCPS has at this point in time because levies come in that fund by voter authorization of general obligations that have a debt service levy attached to them that is necessary to repay principal and interest. And since we don't have any of those at this point in time, we don't have a levy in debt in Fund 3. And Fund 4 is Capital Projects Fund, which some districts choose to put some amount of money in directly out of their operating levy. Again, KCPS does not do that at this point in time. So the information that's needed in order to determine the tax rate are the assessed valuation. That's really the most important component and the one that we wait for the most. Total assessed valuation and the increase between or decrease between last year's assessed valuation is a key component. As you'll remember, in Missouri, there's a Hancock Amendment, which is meant to protect both the school district and the taxpayer from sudden increases or decreases in assessed valuation and the impact that would have on them. Proposition C is a Missouri sales tax, specifically a statewide sales tax, specifically for the purpose of helping support schools. We use that information in the calculation. And in the case of Kansas City Public Schools, we have Article 10, Section 11, that is a 1995 court order rate allowance for Kansas City Public Schools. And we'll look at that in a second. So the assessed valuation components, new construction and improvements, basically a taxing jurisdiction under the Missouri law gets to keep revenues from all new construction when they make this calculation. So the whole idea of the calculation basically is if I paid taxes last year, how much do they go up or down this year? And then if I'm a new construction, welcome to the tax paying world. Reassessment occurs every 2 years. Last year was our reassessment year. So this is an off year for us from that regard. Tax increment financing properties, the current assessed valuation of TIF properties is deducted from the assessed valuation before that calculation is made. The 2018 TIF values are $262 million that are not on the tax rolls. Under the Hancock Amendment, growth in revenue from what was on the books last year. So how much new tax can we have from the properties that we also received taxes from last year? There are three measures, and it is to be the lesser of the actual increase or decrease in the property that was on the books last year. You'll see that's a negative number right now, and we'll look at that in just a second. Or Consumer Price Index, which for this year is 2.10%, or a statutory maximum of 5%. So in this case, we are allowed growth of the lower of those three, which is the negative 2.6564%. Permitted revenue growth is 0 at this time. So the assessed valuation summary. Last year's total assessed valuation was just under $3.2 billion. This year, it's 3.177, so $7.5 million less than last year. And that, been having conversation the last few days with the county to find out how that happened. We're going to look at something in a minute so we'll come back to that. I know that's got your eye right now. Then new construction. We had $77 million of new construction. Were it not for new construction, we would be looking at an $85 million decrease in the tax values that we had on the books a year ago, or a 2.66% decrease. So there are a lot of numbers on this page, and let me see if this thing has I don't think I can point to it. So let me take you to the things that I think are pretty important. The third column in is 2018-19, and so those are the numbers we're dealing with this year. When you go down to about 4 lines down, it says total real property. So all real estate, whether it be residential, agriculture, or commercial, and go over to that 2018 column, you see that that's right at $2.5 billion worth of property. And it's a net decrease of $18.6 million. Go up 1 line in those red parentheses, you see $49,382,720 decrease in commercial property. So 2 lines above that, the homes went up $30 million. The commercial went down $49 million for a net decrease of $18.6 million. So that was the question I had to ask. Why this $49 million decrease? And unfortunately, last year with the reassessment year, you may recall we had I think it was a 9.88% increase in assessed valuation overall. We are required to set this rate in September with final assessed valuations that are provided to us right early September. Between the time final assessed valuations came and tax bills went out, and after our tax rate was set, commercial properties, I have a list of them if you're interested in looking at them. About 60 commercial properties across Kansas City appealed their assessment, their reassessment, and won those appeals at some level after we had set our rate, but before their tax bills went out last year. And so that's why when we compare where we were a year ago when I stood before you and where we are tonight, we have a $50 million decrease in our assessed valuations. So at the bottom of the page, I want to point out a couple of things, and this is our reminder. So I'm going to go up about 5 lines. You'll see it says calculated voter authorized rate. So when we're in that 18-19 column, $3.25 is the allowed voter rate that we can charge for Kansas City Public Schools. We share our revenues, 50% of our revenues that we get from that sales tax of Proposition C, we share back to our voters by reducing or rolling back their tax rate. So $3.25 minus 32 cents this year. That's 1 cent less than last year. And then back to that Article 10, Section 11G, for Kansas City Public Schools only in the state of Missouri, our rate has been established at the bottom line, that 4.9599. You'll notice that in 1617, 1718, and 1819, the total KCPS rate to assess has remained constant. You don't see that in other school districts when they calculate, because that assessed valuation impact comes along, the change in Proposition C comes along, and that will roll up or down pennies in most school districts every year. It doesn't for us because of the line that says net increase to calculated voter authorized levy, and the one right above it, Article 10. So because of Article 10, we get to add back $2.04 to get to our 4.9599 that is set statutorily. So Proposition C, just as a reminder, it is that 1 cent sales tax from 1982, and about 50 school districts of the 516 in Missouri still have Proposition C rollbacks that they use to reduce the tax rate that they charge, that they assess to their staff, and we participate. And this is just the calculation of how that comes to be. Basically, at the end of the day, we have to take the amount of money we received last year from Proposition C revenues, make some adjustments for some prior period things, and then divide it by 2 and figure out how many cents that is when you compare it back to our tax rate. So what does this mean to the homeowner? You remember when we looked at the assessed valuation change page, we saw that commercial real estate declined, but residential real estate increased in assessed valuation as determined by the county assessor. The average increase in the home was 2.25%. So if a home was worth $100,000 last year and is now worth $102,250 this year, the assessed valuation of the home would go from $19,000 to $19,428. And in the far right bottom corner, you see that means a $21 increase in the tax bill this year. Always important for us to understand the implications to the people that are writing the checks. Operating levy revenues. The key thing on this is the bottom right corner. Because of that decrease in commercial assessed valuation, we predict that our revenues from property tax collections will be $333,000 less than they were last year. And this is a slide that looks a little different for you than it has in years past, because we wanted to show you the actual operating tax levy for KCPS as compared to surrounding districts. We are the only district in the region that does not have a debt service levy. And what you've seen before has had that debt service levy added on. So when you look at it without that, and I apologize that I dropped Independence off of that grid. And then Dr. Bedell, I remembered it wrong, which is why you should never quote numbers without something in front of you. When I shared this with you earlier, Independence actually would be below Lee Summit at 4.5725 cents. So KCPS becomes 5th from the bottom of our 11 districts in the region. And so this is the rate that we are proposing. Again, it is the same rate we've proposed to you since 1992, and that's all we have for you.
Are there any members of the public who have questions or comments? This is a public hearing. Are there any questions from the Board of Directors regarding the approval of the 2018 property tax levy? Yes. Go right ahead.
Okay, so I'm just jogging my memory from last year. So I know last year the assessed value had a pretty substantial increase. Was it, you said about
9.88%, if I remember right off the top of my head.
And that was due to what the county had said was some lagging values in commercial assessments.
We did see a large increase in commercial assessed valuation last year.
Right, but
as part of reassessment.
And it was part of reassessment mainly because I guess in previous years they were not, it was like a catch up, right? Like we were expecting a certain amount this year, and just because I guess to make the full amount that they were actually thinking, it would be unreasonable to ask a commercial.
I think last year they saw it as what should be typical.
Right.
The lag still remains, and they're working on that for 2019.
Right, and catching that up. Okay. And so just thinking going forward to 2019, I know that we put some investments in this year with the expectation of some property, when the reassessment in 2019.
Yes.
came, that, we would basically, we wouldn't be funding out of fund balance for those. We would
Right.
now be operating. Is that still our expectation, or do we have any concerns around that at this
It
point?
is, and just as a reminder and to confirm what you are saying, the board allowed us to share in the cost of an outside firm coming and helping the assessor's department get into a technologically more advanced approach to doing reassessment. It's really fun to watch if you want to come look at it with me sometime. We did invest $150,000 in a $450,000 expense. Our charter partners paid their share of that, so we ended up paying about $75,000 and they paid $75,000. And they are in fact going out and looking for properties that have not been on the tax roll but should have been. Properties, one of the examples they gave me of what they found is they found an apartment building that had been listed as a billboard. And so the billboard didn't pay much tax, but an apartment building should be. So they're trying to make all of those kind of corrections and get our commercial property levels to where they should be. You have to think we might see the same thing here, some Board of Equalization appeals. What is, I think, more promising around this approach is that they are actually going to reassess every single commercial property on the books because of bringing in this outside support. And then they'll have a systemic system that can go before the Board of Equalization appeals, so that if you appeal, they're going to be able to say, you know what, the guy right next to you was assessed in the very same fashion, so there's no basis for your appeal. That's our hope. Is that what you were after?
Board Member Manser.
So you may have answered my question, but I want to make sure I understood that fully. So the roughly $50 million in decrease in commercial property assessment, largely due to successful appeals. We in work invest. I think my initial question was, is the appeal process so loose that we are going to confront this kind of situation ongoing? Appeals versus individual property appeals?
I think it absolutely did favor commercial appeals and has, and will even through this year. We'll see probably some difference between what we have today and where we end up finally. I hope not to the same level as we did last year. But the problem was that the taxpayer, it was easy for me to say, here's my neighbor's commercial building and what he was assessed, and here's mine and what I was assessed, and we're on the same street, and his is a third of mine. And so correcting that is what's going to make it easy for the appeals board going forward to say, nope, they were done in the very same fashion, and you're now equal.
Board Member Wolfsey.
I would be interested, you had said that we could see the list. If that could be put in our Friday packet, I would appreciate seeing that.
Board Member Evans.
Ms. Quinley, when I look at the city, I see housing going down and I also see housing going up. When I look out my window, I don't see any commercial property. I see a car wash, and I don't think there's a lot of money that's going to help our school district. Is there a conversation centered around raising that $4.95 it is?
That $4.95?
Yeah, and if so, who's doing it, and how would that impact our district?
So the $4.95, I think the greater question is raising that assessed valuation. The $4.95 is the state established for us right now, and no one but the voters has the authority to make a change. And there are a lot of conversations around what we have to do to get there because of Article 10 and because of Proposition C. But the assessed valuation is really the key to where the new revenues come from. My perception, having done this twice for you now, with the help of a really great team that actually runs the numbers in the business office, is that the historical approach to assessing has been the greater burden to the school district. And so this correction is really what's critical for us at this point, and sustaining this correction.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. It would now be in order to have a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Second.
Will the secretary please, is there any debate? Will the secretary please call the roll?
Ms. Manser,
Yes.
Ms. Wolfsey,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis. Yes. Mr. Oates,
Yes.
Mr. Fierro,
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Ms. Morris, Dr. Hartsville, Ms. Robinson.
Yes, there is a majority in favor, and the approval of the 2018 property tax levy is adopted. Thank you for all of your hard work and your thorough presentation. The chair now closes the public hearing. In the next item of business is the Blue Cross and we do need to do a roll call to close the public hearing. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Ms. Manser,
Yes.
Ms. Wolfsey,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis. Yes. Mr. Oates,
Yes.
Mr. Fierro,
Yes.
Mr. Evans,
Yes.
Ms. Morris, Dr. Hartsville.
Yes.
Ms. Robinson.
Yes. For the item Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas City, the chair recognizes Dr. Bedell to present this proposal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the time of the year where we bring to the board and we ask the board to take action on the acceptance of our medical and dental health insurance on an annual basis, to approve a contract with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas City in the amount of $26 million.
Are there any questions?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It is moved and seconded to approve the 2019 group medical and dental insurance plan and premiums with Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas City. Is there any debate on the motion? Will the secretary call the roll?
Ms. Manser,
Yes.
Ms. Wolfsey,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis. Yes. Mr. Oates,
Yes.
Mr. Fierro,
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Ms. Morris, Dr. Hartsville,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson.
Yes, there's a majority in favor in the 2019 group medical and dental insurance plans and premiums with Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas City is approved. The next item of business is the Lincoln Middle School construction change orders. Dr. Bedell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The administration is asking the board to take action on the Lincoln Middle School construction change orders in the amount of $179,639. And this is something that will frequently happen as we continue the capital work over at Lincoln Middle.
Are there any questions? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to approve the Lincoln Middle School construction change orders. Is there any debate on the motion? Seeing no debate, the secretary will call the roll.
Ms. Manser,
Yes.
Ms. Wolfsey,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis. Yes. Mr. Oates,
Yes.
Mr. Fierro,
Yes.
Mr. Evans,
Yes.
Ms. Morris, Dr. Hartsville.
Yes.
Ms. Robinson.
Yes, there is a majority in favor in the contract with Lincoln Middle School construction change orders in the amount of $179,639 is approved. The next item of business is the Local Investment Commission MOU. Dr. Bedell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I will bring Christy Harrison up, who will present to the board a presentation on the Link Commission MOU that we will ask the board to take action on in the amount of $580,530.
Good evening. I have the link contract. I believe you have looked at the cost to KCPS from previous years to this year has substantially decreased. Previous years we paid around $930,000 to Link, and this year we are able to decrease that cost to around $450,000. We have negotiated into that also our summer school time, so we'll have that covered as well, giving us a total cost of $580,530. So we have an overall savings of $480,000. We do also give an in-kind payment to Link of $480,000, and that is things such as the use of our facilities, our custodial, our electric, internet, nutrition services, all of those kind of things. So that is the actual cost amount to that. We have all of our elementary schools that will be utilizing these services, and then we also have caring community services at Woodland and Richardson Early Learning Centers. As we look through, I just highlighted a few of the services that are provided by Link for us during this time. We have accessible out-of-school enrichment programs. We have the caring community services at all all of our elementary and the 2 early learning centers. They work with our parent liaisons and our SAC to promote broader family and just engagement around various activities. They also develop site councils, which work with our SACs and also with our administration to develop programming in the school. And they work to bring other partnerships and resources into our school buildings. So some of the bigger picture items that we can expect from our LINK services. Do you have any questions on the LINK
Yes.
MOU?
Board Member Manser?
Is it the case that we were previously making that 450, like an in-kind payment previously? We've substantially reduced our cash payment, but were we also previously always making the in-kind contribution?
Yes, we were. The reason we were able to decrease is due to funding that LINK has. And so we had to make some of that funding up in previous year. But we've always made the $450,000 kind in payment to them.
Board Member Evans?
Even when we paid the 900,000, you still paid the 400 in-kind made the 400 in-kind payment?
We did, yes.
Okay, how do you explain going from 9 to 5?
LINK was able to, last year, I believe it was last year, there was some funding cut at the state level for LINK, and the districts around the metro area that utilized LINK had to pick up those services. So that is where that extra money came from for that contract. They have since received some of that funding back, as well as some other grant funding that has allowed them to offer their services at a lower rate to us.
How does that impact our children?
How does we save that money that we can put back into our programming for our children.
I also wanted to publicly thank Senator Curls, because Senator Curls did a lot of work in Jefferson City to also advocate for additional funding for LINK. And Ms. Quinley, I don't know, was it around 200,000 or 2 million? I mean, I know it's a big difference. I can't remember.
Yeah.
2 million. So she was able to advocate and to help the local districts around here have an offset of the cost by getting appropriations committee to support LINK with $2 million additional dollars. So I do want to publicly thank her for fighting on behalf of our school district, but even other schools that are associated with LINK.
Mm-hmm.
Board Member Oates?
So, thank you for the presentation. Quick question, just forecasting ahead. So I know last year we passed a early release for Wednesdays, and our partnership with LINK was unable to accommodate that, and so we went back. I know there was discussion about whether we would revisit this in the future, and what conversations are we having with LINK about should this come up again as a way that to provide extra PD for teachers, and if they're not able to, what discussions might we be having with people who are?
So LINK has made it very clear to us that they are unable to provide those services for early outs. They actually did try in a smaller district in Hickman Mills, and they were not able to do that. It didn't work for them, so they had to pull out of that previously. They declined to work with us as well as with Grandview on early dismissal because they just don't have the capacity to do that. They have, however, said they would come to the table and help us to develop programming or work with outside partners or whatever we need from them to make it successful. They're committed to the work. They just don't have the capacity to staff the programming.
And I will tell you, Mr. Oates, that is something that we have talked about as a cabinet. We want to make sure that whatever we do across the system, if we were to come back and say we want to move forward with this early release, that is going to be consistent. I'm not interested in us having one program at this school, another at another school, and then we're kind of all over the place. I would say that it may be easier for us as a system to potentially look at, are there opportunities to add additional professional development days into the calendar where we can, pay our teachers and take that route and not necessarily be in a situation where we have a bunch of families that are just struggling to find daycare for one day or some kind of coverage. So we are looking into some potential other options, Mr. Oates, in the case that we just can't find anybody that can help provide coverage for us on those Wednesdays. The other piece is, as we've been having conversations with some other individuals, because of Link's ability to obtain the type of grants that they obtain and the additional funding, it's very difficult for us to find somebody that's going to be able to offer before and after school care at a much lower rate than what we're getting right now, where we don't have to charge our families. So I know as a team, we're going to continue to look at this. The professional development component is extremely important, and we need to do that. And so we will continue to have this conversation and be prepared to bring something back to the board as to where we're going for next year.
Thank you.
Board Member Lewis.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell, for this report. I have a question relative to Link, because there's such a critical piece to what we're able to do with after school care. I remember the year prior to now, there was some concern in the middle of the school year relative to cost and us having to make a call on that. I know that with the desire to do the additional professional development, Link was a critical piece that we were hoping for, that because of the reasons you stated was not able to do that. I'm looking at now even being able to get the reduced cost for Link and the legislation or the push from Senator Curls. You know, it just seems like, and this is the money that we're talking about now is for this current school year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So with being the school year already in progress and us making these decisions now, I can't, and I'm very happy that things have turned out so that we're okay. My question is, what is our contingency plan for when we're making these decisions after the school year has already started, if the additional funding was not available, if Link, you know, if there was a change again in cost or the ability to cover those extra costs? Like, how do we protect ourselves on such a critical part of our operations? What's our plan B?
So
I don't need an answer for that, but I just have to wonder, at what point are we so exposed that
Can we?
I can give her.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I'll give you a quick answer. I mean, this actually was budgeted. This was budgeted, and so it's not that we're making this decision after the school year started. There had been some changes within Link's organization with their CFO, and they've been through several, and so we're just getting at a point now where we're getting everything in order. They've been providing services for us, but what we're asking the board to approve today was already built into our budget when you all voted on the budget previously.
Yes. Board Member Fierro.
Madam Chair, I would agree with my colleague, Ms. Lewis, that it would be helpful that if staff, not tonight, would come back with what is Plan B. Here's the reality. Link, for several years, has developed a formula with the state of Missouri to access dollars to provide before and after care. And there was a long period of time where money was coming in and they were able to go into a lot of schools. What we've seen the last several years is that has gone up and down. And so like any other nonprofit, they're having to figure out where do we go and leverage money that we've lost from the state, and who can we serve and who can we not serve. That is the reality. And in that reality, they have also become a monopoly on the before and after school care. And so what I would want to hear from the staff at a later time is how do we respond to that? Because if it's just a matter of always going back to them every year, well, then staff just need to tell us that versus, maybe presenting some alternative strategies of finding different providers, knowing that, well, we're just always going to go back to Link. So those are my comments. Now, while I say that, when we're ready to make a motion, I'm more than happy to approve the staff recommendation.
Oh, and I think I hear you, and those are good points to raise, and it's something that I've said months ago, okay, just around our responsibility as an educational institution. And I talk about this. We have to make a decision on what we're willing to put our money into and what we aren't willing to put our money into. And it's very difficult. I don't know of any other school district doing what we're able to do, making this investment. And I think it's the right thing to do, but it does get to a point where if we do not have the ability to find other providers, and this is the provider right now that's able to offer us this opportunity at the cost that we have, I think it's something that we can look at. But I mean, a contingency plan, we can look into it. I just don't know what 100% is out there that's going to be able to provide this kind of coverage at our elementary schools before and after school at the rate that we have.
We do have a plan to rebid our before and after school services moving into this next school year. So we'll start that around December and move forward. But there is more to it than just the before and after school. It's all of the caring communities and all of those pieces as well.
And I'm very glad that you said that, because that is a standard operating procedure that, you rebid your contracts. I mean, when you look at what you all have brought before us, from $930,000 to $450,000, and then we're now asking for some additional inquiry and planning and thoughtfulness around contingency. I just would say, as an individual board member, with everything that we have to deal with that's facing us, I think we should, think critically about what we're asking the superintendent to do around this piece. If you're going to rebid it out, but to come back and say, okay, we need a contingency plan, I think is a bit much for this particular contract.
I think I'm following you, Madam Chair. I would agree, but I think that the reality is we have to go about this in a much different way. I mean, what I hear you saying is, if we rebid it out, you're basically asking one provider to come in like a Link and say, well, we can serve the same amount of kids for either more or less. I don't know if that is even feasible in our city to have a Link type organization. So again, I think I would like to have staff take a little bit more time. I think the directive, in my opinion, to Dr. Bedell is, one, I think he brought it up, do we provide before and after school care? Second, what is the dollar amount that we ask him to stay within to budget that? And then I think from there, then staff take it and say, well, we know we want to provide this for our families, and the budget number is this. Now, how do we become creative to find alternatives to Link if that is the direction we want to go?
Board Member Oates?
And I guess my whole thing was just bringing it back to some of our strategic moves going forward. Whether it's school buses or before after school care or whoever we're partnering with, that partnership allows us to move to the places that we've identified as a district that we said we wanted to go. Around professional development, we did have a discussion that it was necessary, and we were not able to move where we identified we needed to go because of limitations of our partnership here. And so I'm not saying to find anything else. I just want to be sure that we're always evaluating our partnerships moving forward with, can we still accomplish what our strategic mission is going forward? And if not, how do we move past that? That's all.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the Local Investment Commission MOU?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any debate on the motion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
Ms. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Wolfsey?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Oates?
Yes.
Mr. Fierro?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Morris? Dr. Hartsfeld?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes, the MOU is approved. Now, is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I make a motion, Madam Chair, that we approve consent items 4.01019S009037 through 4.05019S009047.
Is there a second?
Second.
It is moved and seconded to approve the items on the consent agenda. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Ms. Manser,
Yes.
Ms. Wolfsey,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Abstain.
Mr. Oates,
Yes.
Mr. Fierro,
Yes.
Mr. Evans,
Yes.
Dr. Hartsville. Yes. Ms. Morris, Ms. Robinson.
Yes, there's a majority in favor and the items on the consent agenda are approved. This brings us to the conclusion of the agenda tonight. If there's nothing else that that needs to come before the body, the meeting is adjourned. Good night. And